Cheat on me? Have fun getting set up on a man date. Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some of the recent r/ProRevenge stories posted on Reddit. Cheat on me? Have fun getting set up on a man date. I was dating this guy who I thought was everything a girl could ask for. He was smart, funny, hot. For about 3 months, I was in absolute heaven, so you can imagine how heartbroken I was when a friend told me about him DMing her on a dating site she frequented, asking for nudes. After a weekend of me crying on the couch with girlfriends, watching bad rom-coms, and binging on junk food, I decide that it's time for payback. The friend who warned me about him agrees to help me in my plan. She agrees to string him along, sending him nudes and flirting with him. All the while, I'm playing the oblivious little airhead, pretending to still be head over heels in love with him. Now important for later, my friend's name was Terry. Eventually my ex decides that pictures aren't enough for him. He needs the real thing. So he starts hitting her up for a hookup. She pretends to go along with it and makes it seem like she's on board. He asks for her number. Up until this point their primary means of communication has been through DMs, and she gives him the number of one of her homophobic ex-boyfriend, Jake. Now let's backtrack. Terry herself had just broken up with this guy recently, and we decided that as long as one cheating jerk was being punished, we might as well get the other. We went to a club where we knew he hung out. Sure enough, we find him with some friends. Terry goes up to him and pretends like she's so embarrassed to be doing this, but my friend thinks you're cute. The guy can't resist the chance to get in some cute girl's pants, and he can't resist the chance to rub it in his ex's face about what a catch he is. So he asks her to bring this friend over. Terry responds that this friend is too shy to come over right now, but she hopes it's okay if she gave her his number. She'd love to plan a nice quiet one-on-one date where they could get to know each other better. The guy shrugs and says sure, unaware that the friend in question ain't exactly a chick. Now important detail, this guy's middle name was Terrence. So he didn't think too much about who he thought was a shy girl referring to him as Terry in his texts. Jake, under the impression that this girl wants to go on a date, immediately starts asking about when they should meet up. My ex jumps at the chance, and immediately agrees to come meet him in Jake's apartment for that one-on-one bonding. Finally the big day arrives and my ex drives up to Jake's apartment. Thanks to Terry continuing to stay in touch with him through her DMs, she knows what day/time he's coming. She asked him when they'd agreed to meet just to confirm on the site, and we secretly park in front of the building in sunglasses and hats. We watch my ex swagger into the apartment and come running out about 5 minutes later like a bat out of hell without a shirt, and 2 black eyes. Jake follows shortly after, screaming at him to get back here while struggling to pull up his pants. Apparently both men got a little overexcited waiting for my ex to come up, and were in the process of undressing. Jake in particular apparently couldn't wait for my ex to come up and had begun prepping himself before the lucky girl even arrived. When my ex knocked on the door, Jake opened it with his pants around his ankles, intending to surprise her with his one-eyed snake. Probably thought she'd be less likely to back out of the nasty in the event that he misinterpreted what her idea of getting to know him better was, if he was halfway to completion. We're not exactly sure what happened after the moment of truth, but from what we could tell, when Jake realized he'd been set up on a date with a guy, his first instinct was to lash out at my ex, being the homophobe we knew him to be. Contrariwise, my ex being an absolute wuss took to his heels the moment things got violent. Then Jake probably decided to pursue him once he realized he'd forgotten to threaten my ex not to speak of this incident to anybody. Me and Terry are laughing so hard we almost done notice the police arrive at the scene. One of Jake's neighbors must have heard him shouting and chasing my ex and reported a domestic disturbance. Then we get the added benefit of watching the police run after them. It was like watching a chase scene in Scooby-Doo. Once they finally caught the guys, they took them in for resisting arrest. It's now that me and Terry decide to make ourselves scarce. Then I angrily text my ex about how one of my friends saw him at Jake's place for a gay hookup and that I never signed up to be his beard. He doesn't even bother trying to explain before asking me to come bail him out. I tell him that we're over and block his number. To this day, I still don't know what happened afterwards, and neither does Terry. She blocked Jake's number and my ex on the dating site. Mother gets fired, you are fucked big time. My mother worked for a hotel chain in which usually has a chain of restaurants right next to them, so they were all under an umbrella company. My mother worked in the hotel and my sister worked in the restaurant next door. My sister ended up dating her boss, the manager of the restaurant, for a while until he started cheating on her. We found this out as my mother, as the head of the hotel, monitored the CCTV in the hotel and the restaurant and saw other workers going up to his apartment above the hotel that he lived in regularly and the worker not coming out until the morning after. My mother broke it to my sister, who immediately resigned and worked elsewhere. But the manager ended up finding out that it was my mother who had told her daughter about him cheating, so he resented her for it. During that time the hotel and restaurant split. My mother was made redundant, but was offered an immediate start in the restaurant next door as an assistant manager. Good pay rise, working with familiar people, and the agreement that the manager who cheated on my sister would have to be on separate shifts so there is no conflict of interest. She accepted the job. The manager ended up making my mother's life hell in subtle ways, by always putting her on 12-hour shifts, not paying overtime on time, etc. My mother is a hard worker, so she never complained and got the work done. The manager didn't like this, as most of the workers would supplement her workload and helped her out when it was needed. The manager decided to bring out the big guns and ended up plotting for my mother to get fired. He put my mother on the night shift and she proceeded to go through the normal processes of emptying the tills and putting everything in the safe behind the kitchen, which only the assistant manager, my mother, and the manager had access to based on company policies. My mother went through her night shift and put everything in the safe as usual, locked it and went home. She gets a call the next morning requesting her to come in on her day off. She was accused of leaving the safe door open, which by policy, is gross misconduct. But there was no money missing. The company investigated this, but the CCTV only covered the hallway leading up to the safe room and caught a figure wearing a black hoodie and go into the safe room. It then became a police matter who couldn't confirm nor deny that it was the manager, who lived in the apartment upstairs, as the CCTV was apparently down on that night overlooking his apartment entrance. All of this blew over and my mother got a final warning and the manager was ordered to manage a different restaurant in another city. He moved out and another manager came in. The new manager loved my mother, re-employed my sister, and it was smooth for a few years, until the previous manager got transferred back. Obviously, my mother was anxious that something would happen again, and the same subtle torture came back, 12-hour shifts etc. As my mother predicted, she was called up another morning asking her to in on her day off and they had HR waiting there for her. They accused her of stealing from the tills. On the night in question, she was manager of the night, but the CCTV recording had been deleted in some bizarre data loss event. She got fired for gross misconduct. The house was nearly repossessed and I, as the youngest, sometimes had to go to school without a meal. As I've gotten older, I understood what this manager did and obviously I'd want to rip his head off. My partner ended up getting a job at the hotel next to the restaurant and she told me about the smoking area and that it mixes with the restaurant. She said that they had a big problem with mice in the kitchen. I saw the chance for my mother's redemption and I reported it to the council. The hotel my partner worked at got shut down for 2 weeks while an exterminator came in, but as it was the restaurant's responsibility as they owned the land, they faced huge fines and ended up putting that restaurant into negative profit. It looks like the restaurant chain decided to shut the building down as the local residents stopped eating there. The building is currently up for sale. The hotel's customers are still a bit disappointed that there isn't a restaurant close by, but my partner still has the job. My mother is working as a manager of a different hotel for a different hotel chain. I never told my mother what I did, I just know she was happy when she heard the manager that did all this to her got fired for gross misconduct for not reporting the mice. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.